Hello, and welcome to the Radical Fabulatorium. I'm your host, John Adam Ian. Okay, on today's episode, I am speaking with Vincent Cacchione of Caged Animals. They've got a new record out called Make Strange Friends, available on You've Changed Records. Of course, it's streaming everywhere as well, but you can also grab it on Bandcamp, cagedanimals.bandcamp.com. And if you buy the physical copy or the copy from Bandcamp, you actually get a bonus track, which is kind of this 30-minute radio drama, standalone podcast episode, which tells a pretty cool story. I thought it was pretty interesting, so go ahead and grab that physically or over at Bandcamp to make sure you get that bonus track. But yeah, we get into that in the interview, of course, and we cover a lot of ground, actually. This was a really great chat. Vincent was very generous with his time, so I appreciate that a lot. All right, here we go. My chat with Vin of Caged Animals. All right, thanks a lot for coming on the show today, Vincent. I appreciate you giving me some of your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So the new record, Make Strange Friends, out on You've Changed Records. That just dropped like a week or two ago, right?
It just came out 1 week ago today, actually, on Halloween, Spooky Halloween release day.
Spooky Halloween. Okay, perfect. So we're going to dive into the record, but just before, I have a personal curiosity question that I need to ask. One of my all-time favorite punk rock records is Fuck World Trade by Leftover Crack.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I thought I heard that you opened for them kind of back in the New York, Brooklyn scene. Is that right, or am I mistaken?
Well, I love how deep we're going, and yes, that's true. When I was a teenager, I played in a punk rock band called Give Us Barabbas, and sort of what Give Us Barabbas was all about was we were kind of equally inspired by the Dead Kennedys and Crass as we were the Who. We were big fans of the Who.
Yeah.
Cool. And our big thing was we wanted to do a Tommy style rock opera in punk rock form. So that's what we did. We created basically a play that we put on. Our show was a play that involved characters and a story and narrative songs that kind of went through the whole thing. And we performed that at shows, and we kind of we were just kids. We were like 15, 16-year-old kids, but we kind of grabbed the attention of the older generation of punk rockers of our time, which included people like SZA from Choking Victim, Leftover Crack, and our personal favorites, World Inferno Friendship Society. I don't know if you know about them.
No, I've never heard them. No,
they were a classic, and I should say that when we finally did discover their music was after our band was going and after we had kind of created that music. But when we saw them for the first time, it was like, oh my God, it's like them. It's like us if we were that good, because they were just so good, so incredible, theatrical, cabaret inspired punk rock. They drew from like Eastern European influences and had this guy, Franz Nicolai, was the accordionist. He went on to be in the Hold Steady.
Cool.
Really interesting music. And sadly, actually, the singer of that group, Jack Terrycloth, he died 3-4 years ago. But he's, in my opinion, possibly up there with Jello Biafra as the greatest punk rock frontman of all time. Just incredible. But yeah, so Give Us Barabbas, our little baby band, got to play shows with some of these heavy hitters and got taken under their wings a bit. We played a C-Squat over there where those guys lived, Leftover Crack. It was insane to go play a show there because you'd have to walk down these rickety... It was a squat in the East Village, right?
Cool.
And it was very grimy, and these guys were living there, probably doing lots of hard drugs as well. And you'd have to walk down these rickety stairs, and then every kid in New York would learn about this. So there'd be hundreds of kids in this building that probably should have been condemned, but there'd be some of the craziest shows of your whole life would happen down there. So thankfully I survived,
Yep. That's wild. Yeah, that sounds exactly like what I always heard those experiences were like. Like, it's interesting to be able just to ask you that because I'd always heard about those punk rock squat shows, but never knew anyone who would have even been close to being involved in the scene like that. So,
yeah, well, they were really scary. I remember the very first time I went to one. I was about 14 or so, and I came home, and I had heard that they had bed bugs there and scabies and all these kinds of problems in that building. So the second I got back to my parents' place, I just stripped completely nude, left everything in the garbage, walked into the house butt naked. And my parents were like, what's going on? And I was like, it's all good. It's actually better that I go this way.
Don't ask questions, but just be happy that I'm doing this.
Yeah, I'm home and you don't want those clothes here.
That's funny. That's good stuff. That's hilarious, man. That's okay. That's cool. Thank you for entertaining my curiosity with that, because I lived briefly in Montreal at a punk squat place called the Fatal Lofts. Like, people would jump off the rails and play these kind of like illegal venues and stuff. And so this is like 12 years ago at this point. But anyway, so just thank you for satisfying my punk rock curiosity.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool question. Thank you for asking it.
So make strange friends. So I've been listening to the record pretty consistently. Actually, I know you were lucky. You were nice enough to give me an advance copy. So my first thought. So actually, it'd be interesting to just briefly go into your background, just to explain to my listeners how you kind of you talked about it a little bit from the Brooklyn scene, and then you chose to move to Sackville, where your partner's from, which obviously would lead you to meet John McKeel, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about, is working with him on that record. But maybe we'll just, for a second here, ask like what brought you to Sackville besides it being your partner's hometown.
Yeah, so it kind of happened through the circumstances of the way the world was at the time. But we've had a long-term connection to Sackville because I've been with Magali close to 20 years now. So, and her family's all here. So we were always coming up 3-4 times a year for family stuff. And she's quite close with her family, and I'm Italian, so I'm family centered. And so we would always come up and spend, weeks at a time, sometimes months at a time, especially in the summer. So we always had a strong connection to New Brunswick and to Sackville. And I kind of always assumed that at some stage of our lives, we would live here. But what happened was COVID. And, what I do for a living is I work in the fiction podcasting world. I'm a producer for fiction podcasts, which are like the modern day radio drama. Mm-hmm. And when the pandemic started, all my sessions got canceled. Nobody wanted to meet in person. And then our kid, Alaska, was in kindergarten at the time, PS 110 in Brooklyn, and school got canceled. And Magali's like, you know what? Why don't we go up to my mom's for a little bit, wait out these couple weeks? It was in the uncertain part of the pandemic when we just didn't know what it was going to be all about. And why don't we go up to my mom's for a little bit? We'll wait it out. And so we did. We headed up north to Sackville, and the day after we arrived, they closed the border. Now, this was like, oh man, they closed the border. Like, this is much more serious than we realized it was. We weren't fully taking it seriously. We were kind of just like, oh, if everything's canceled, we can just go spend some time with your family. It'll be great. And, at least we'll be in nature. We don't have to be cooped up in our apartment or whatever. Boy, they closed the border. And then a week or two into it, I lost a friend to COVID.
Shit.
And the combination of having come right when we did and losing our friend Hal only 2 weeks later, it was like, oh my God, like, not only did we make a good choice, like we could have maybe saved our lives by coming here. So it carried that energy with it, and we continued to stay, still not thinking we were going to stay long term, still having our apartment in Brooklyn. I'm still doing all my work that's basically just New York based, but now I'm doing it remotely. Like a month or two into the pandemic, we're figuring out how to do it remotely. We're continuing to work. But then I met John, and he kind of knew about our story, that we were like up here for a little while, and he was moving out of this very home that I'm currently in. He's like, we're moving. We bought a house. This place is probably perfect for you. It's got this barn in the backyard where you can make music, and maybe it's just the right timing. And I just took it as a message from the universe that our New Brunswick years were upon us. Huh. Meeting John, having this place, and so we started to rent the place from the owners at the time. Eventually, we bought it, and just step by step, it just kind of felt like New Brunswick was where we were meant to be right now in this time of our lives. And it's been a beautiful couple of years, almost 6 years now that we've been here. Wow,
that's cool. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your friend. You're in the pandemic, the way it kind of ramped up there. It was quite an experience, but I'm glad something positive came from it, because you're now in this kind of beautiful location and pumping out beautiful music. So.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's hard. I felt a strong guilt about it, to be totally honest. Mm-hmm. Like at the time, like watching like New York and what was happening. My mom, my sister, all my friends. And we were here in like, you know, to me, you know, coming from like, I actually grew up in New Jersey, but, you know, 15 minutes outside the city. So pretty urban. So for me, like my first experiences with like the country life were here in New Brunswick. So to me, it's sort of like, this is the definition of it.
Okay.
And it's my ideal of it, you know? So I felt like, you know, in those early couple of years where it was really rough to be living in New York and going through that time. And we're here in this like idyllic place, beautiful place, living a really good life. Hard not to feel a bit of guilt about it. But, you know, as the years have gone on, I've gotten over most of that, and I'm just grateful to live here. You know, I love the life here.
Yeah, Sackville's kind of like, I mean, it's pretty well known around the East Coast, but it's still kind of like a hidden gem. And, you know, you're so close to Moncton when you need to get something a little more, you know, well, in New Brunswick terms, a little more like big city life. You're not too far away at all. So.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's wonderful. And her grandpa's over there. So we were over there quite a bit, you know,
Very
in
cool.
the old folks home. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that's an interesting story, interesting journey to New Brunswick. Does that mean you're in the place where like the album Hex would have been made by John McKeel? Do you know if he did?
No, he didn't do Hex here. He did Bobby Joe Hope here.
Okay, cool.
The previous one, but yeah, John's tape machine used to be on that bench there, and he had only just put out that album when he passed off this House to Us.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
And you still working with John, co-produced the new record. You worked to tape, is that right? You tracked to tape?
Yeah, we worked on the tape machine that he owns. We met, and we met, and I liked the guy right away. But then wasn't familiar with his music yet, and he had just put out Bobby Joe Hope, and I was just knocked out by that record. And it intensified our friendship. You know, I'm a musician, so meeting musicians I like and respect is usually like a pretty clear path towards friendship for me.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we just hit it off, and then I started to show him some of the songs I was writing, and he seemed interested in them. And he was like, "Hey, like if you ever want to record stuff with me on my tape machine, let me know." And so I kind of let that idea ferment for about a year until I had like all the songs for a record. Okay. And then it was like, by the way, were you serious? Let's do that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, it was really, really a boon to these songs to get to work with John. He's such a great songwriter and musician with a great sensitivity and creativity. And I think he really helped me find the best version of them.
Cool. Yeah, when I listen to the record, and I mean, I'm no expert in any genre or anything, but when I hear the record, it does actually kind of sound like the blend of that New Brunswick / Acadian indie rock with like that Brooklyn vibe. Like it does actually come off as like a marriage between those two sounds in my ears. And again, I'm not an expert in either genres, but that's just kind of how it felt when I first hit play. And that was before I found out it was with John McKeel. So
that's wonderful. And I know exactly what you mean. And I actually think there's actually a stronger link between sort of indie folk songwriter stuff from New Brunswick and indie folk songwriter stuff from New York and New Jersey than people realize. So I kind of grew up in the anti-folk scene and Sidewalk as a songwriter. And I find that the musical culture of that world is very, very similar to the musical culture of the Sappy Fest world and Julie Dwaran and those people. In fact, Julie used to play in Herman Dune, who were a New York anti-folk band of that time. She was the bass player on 2 of their records. So there's like several actual like physical links. Me and Magali, Julie, the Burning Hell have a lot of connections in that world. So there's those 2 worlds definitely talk to each other more than people think they do.
Interesting. Okay, that's really cool. I actually didn't know that about Julie Dwaran. She's kind of like obviously a local legend type kind of person. So that's interesting. So that's cool that there's literally a physical connection between the 2 scenes.
Yeah, and I really dig this world of music. It feels like there's a tenderness in the musical scene here that is easy for me to identify with and want to participate in. And I feel this. People might not think of New York in that way, but certainly the anti-folk world has got that same feeling. Mm-hmm. Probably not the leftover crack world, you know. Nobody ever called Stiz a tender, but
well, both those worlds can. I mean, sometimes the messages are similar, right? What the lyrics are about.
Yeah, for sure.
So, is your partner Acadian?
She is. Yeah, she's francophone. I think they consider themselves Brayon.
Okay,
which is like a different type of French person from New Brunswick, but they're from the north of New Brunswick, out west. And I guess her grandpa Berthollet, he came to Moncton in the 50s.
Okay,
from where he was from. He's from up there, kind of near the Quebec border. And they were there for like hundreds of years or something like that.
Yeah,
like old school family. But no, our kids go to, Acadian school and stuff and go to school in French. So I love that culture, it's just to speak specifically about Acadians, I feel really blessed to be growing up in that culture, with my kids and to absorb it. And it's very recognizable to me as an Italian American because I feel like we're our own subculture, in the American experience, very specific, kind of sealed off in a particular way.
Okay.
And the Acadian thing is kind of similar to that. And the Catholic aspect too is it feels very similar in a lot of ways.
That's interesting.
Food's different, but
food's different. yeah, I believe it. That's interesting. I grew up pretty Anglophone. I speak French, but I grew up pretty Anglophone. And then just when I started working with my other job, Music New Brunswick, it kind of opened up the whole Acadian Francophone scene that I just kind of I don't know, I just had my blinders up the whole time and I missed it. And so it made me discover bands like Bay and Joey Robin Haché and then because I just recently kind of discovered it, I could hear this kind of Francophone Acadian indie sound that kind of brought that whole scene together, kind of gave that whole scene glue. And it was just such an interesting discovery, even though I grew up right beside it this whole time and never knew it was there. So I was but you've had that connection this whole time. So I was kind of curious how that sounded to your ears. If the Acadians,
I love so much of that stuff. I find it actually surprising how little the English-speaking independent music world and the French-speaking independent music world speak to one another.
Yeah.
In the context of New Brunswick, I love Caroline Savoie, her music, the Moon Tunes, Petit Béliveau. All these people are making great music, and it often feels oh man, how come there's not a convergence? Everybody's living right here.
Yeah,
but there really kind of isn't. It's pretty separate.
Big time. And really the only time it comes together, from my opinion, from what I can tell, is Music MB Week, when they do the weekly, once a year they get together in Moncton and they do Francophone showcases blended with Anglophone showcases, and the award show is both Anglophone and Francophone musicians. And but really that seems to be the only time that the two worlds collide.
I got to come next time. I was on this crazy, I'm still on this crazy deadline right now, but that it was last week, right?
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks ago. Yeah. It just wasn't doable at all for me. But I want to come next week and see what that's all about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you should check it out. You dig it
next year.
You dig it for sure. Get a show. Maybe you guys could do a showcase. Okay, I keep meaning to dive into the record because I hope you don't mind nerding out a little bit. But when I listen to some of the bass guitar tones on the record, sometimes and I mean this in a good way, but sometimes it sounds dull, but sometimes it sounds like it's palm muted, and sometimes it just sounds like it's a little the high ends cut off of the mix. And I just wanted to know what's your approach? Are you playing bass on the record first?
Yeah, it's me or John.
Okay.
Every track is me or John, depending on which track. But yeah, almost all the record is me and John and Magali, who's singing and playing all the violin parts.
Okay.
So it's us three primarily. Steve Lamke plays guitar in a couple tunes. I got my buddy Jeff Tobias on sax on the song Crow.
Oh, I love that. I was going to ask about that sax because that's a beautiful, just appears out of nowhere and just sits there beautifully. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my buddy Frankie is playing guitar on a tune. I think that's about everybody who's on it on the tunes. But yeah, in terms of the bass, we did use some flat wounds on that.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's that. And yeah, it's I was not looking for it to be punchy, just a little bit more round, perhaps.
Yeah, round. Okay. And now, are there songs that are palm muted and songs that aren't palm muted? Is that Is that too?
I think so. I don't know if I palm muted any of my bass. Maybe I might have. I can't quite remember.
Okay.
But definitely always playing with the fingers too. Fingers or thumb.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Fingers and thumb and flat wounds. And I think honestly all of that just went straight to tape as well. So there's no amp.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It just be like plugged right into the Tascam and it's got that kind of saturated tape thing going on.
So my experience with tape is pretty limited. So when you're feeding the bass into the Tascam, do you go for that kind of tape saturation, tape compression vibe? Like, do you try to hit the tape hard where it's almost clipping?
Yes. Well, we're not trying to let it distort all that much, but just getting a good signal going to tape helps, kind of smooth it out a little bit and sounds good. And I think it helps marry it to the drums a little bit better because the drums are all kind of probably on the next track over, because it's just a 1/4-inch machine. The tape's quite narrow. So all the tracks are actually physically like close to one another. And if like the alignment's slightly off, there's just a little bit of bleed between those two tracks. Like, it's interesting. We like lost tracks along the way. John got the thing serviced and brought it back. There was a whole saga of like getting it all onto that machine. But the thing for me is less about the sound though. To me, it was more the experience of just like, hey, like John and I are going to get together. I'm going to bring this song tonight. I'm going to show him the song. And then, he would just start to have reactions to it musically. He'd start pacing the room and find something that he wanted to play. Then, okay, all right, he's sitting on bass now. Okay, all right, so we'll just play it with bass for a while. And then when John locked into something that he liked, then we would start to build the rest of the arrangement, from there, like piece by piece. John, me, John, till we had filled up all 8 tracks,
Okay.
Pretty cool, really instinctive, and really like it was interesting to see him to get his first impression and then let his creativity run into the arrangement of the tunes. I don't think he gives himself enough credit for it, but I'm here to tell you that it was a real boon for these songs to have him be a part of it from the beginning.
Okay. That's a nice way to capture kind of the creativity without overthinking things, I would imagine.
Yeah. And John is, a hell of a songwriter, hell of a musician. So he's just like hearing it with those ears and being like, okay, like this is where I'm going with this song, Like I had the chords and the lyrics and the melody. That was all figured out, the structure.
Yeah.
But the arrangements were not figured out at all. We did that together. To tape, just piece by piece, and just and the inception of each track was just me bringing the song to John adding something to it, and then okay, now we're on this path, this version of the song, the one that John reacted to, and really really cool. I really enjoyed working that way. I sent the record around to some friends in New York, and they were like, we're still holding out hope that you're going to move home one day, but. If you do move home, you must return to New Brunswick every couple of years and make a record with John McKeel because you guys just sound great together.
That's awesome. Maybe you should convince more of them to come up here.
Yeah. We just had some friends come up 3-4 weeks ago. Toby Goodshank and Leslie Graves and Phoebe Kreutz, Matt Colburn. They came up. We were all part of the Burning Hell's wedding. Okay. They got married and we were all like part of the wedding band together. So they came up, played a show in Sackville, and Toby was in that band, the Moldy Peaches, in the early 2000s.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know the name, but I haven't heard them actually, but yeah.
Yeah. Adam Green and Kimmy Dawson. Yeah. So anyway, they had a blast playing in our backyard in Sackville, and the whole scene came out.
That's cool.
Just check them.
That's awesome. And okay, so so that satisfies my bass curiosity. I'm also like pretty interested in like space. So I know there's nice reverbs and there's some delays. There's like, it sounds like there's a couple moments where like one acoustic guitar is on the left channel, and then there's a different sounding or different kind of acoustic guitar in the right channel. Do you have any philosophy when it comes to like space and placement? And I'd be curious to know how that connects to your podcast production too, just because I imagine that would change the way you might start thinking about stereo space.
Oh yeah. There's no overarching theory, just what sounds cool for each track. I'll just play around until I find like there's a nice sense of separation and stereo image. I like stereo image, so I'll play with the elements until I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I like the landscape of this, like the way it feels in my headphones. I'd like to go even further in future work. I mean, I feel like getting the drums out of the middle is like, it's such a default to put the drums in the middle. And then you listen to a lot of great 60s recordings and you're like, oh man, drums are way over here.
Yeah.
But it sounds cool and it's interesting and the separation is interesting.
Yeah, I agree. The record, have you heard the record The Empyrean by John Frusciante?
No, but I love his early Neandra Ladace record is one of my favorite things.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I've never heard The Empyrean, no.
That's a deep cut, Neandra. The Empyrean is one of his later ones, latest. I think it was like 10 or 12 years ago, but you should check out that. I bet you dig the way he puts that record together. It's more one of his guitar records, but just it's got some really cool reverbs and spacing, and sometimes the drums are hard panned here and there. It's really cool.
Oh, I'll definitely check that out. I mean, he's amazing, huh? Like, he's made so much music. Not all of it stuff that like I've put into my like keeper pile, but those that those that are fantastic.
Yeah, he's obviously a strange, gifted person.
Yeah.
So another thing that pointed. So I guess we should explain maybe that like the end of the record. If you purchase the record through Bandcamp, I believe, right, you get or I'm imagining the physical copy. You get the podcast episode, or what's the best way to describe that? The track 10.
Yeah. I think of it as a radio play since it's not going to be a continuing thing.
Okay.
It's like a one-off. It's a one-act play that I wrote, where I took my wife's grandfather, Bertolet, and my sort of mentor, this guy, Larry Ratzo Sloman. He's a guy I've known since I was in my 20s. He's a writer from New York, who's actually, I produced his debut music album.
Cool.
Came out 6 years ago. He was in his 60s when we made it, but
oh wow.
But it was a really beautiful experience.
Just as a side note, I think he ghost wrote a book that I was a huge fan of, Scar Tissue, right? Another Chili Peppers connection there.
Yes.
Yeah, just because I mentioned Frusciante. And that's
totally. Ratso ghost wrote Anthony Kiedis' book, correct. And Howard Stern and Mike Tyson, a bunch of people. Okay. That's kind of his day gig. But yeah, so I think of it as like a one act play, and because my day job is this working in fiction podcasting. I thought it would be really interesting to bring that side of my life into my musical life, and so I wrote this play, and I kind of wrote bizarre world versions of Ratso and Bertolet, and the concept is that this mysterious thing happens. Neither guy really knows what's happened, but they both believe they're the last guy alive until they bump into each other. And what ensues is sort of like a clash of civilizations kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But both guys are similar in some key ways. They're both quite they're accomplished, they're artists, they have a lot to say, they have a lot of philosophy in their minds. They're sort of pontificators. And they have this conversation, and it's kind of jagged. It's sometimes really pretentious, and it's sometimes really tender. But they make this connection with each other. And so it's called Make Strange Friends, and it closes off the album. And actually, it's funny we're talking about Give Us Barabbas, because I think that in a lot of ways I've been working at the same kind of ideas since I was a kid. Okay. With our little punk rock play, and then this album. Now I'm 42 years old. Marrying these character songs with this like strange little surrealist play that kind of it doesn't have a strong plot or anything. It's just really a conversation. It's just a weird conversation. And in 2014, I actually wrote a novella and then produced that as an audio kind of thing and peppered some songs around that. That was called The Overnight Coroner. So I've gone in and out of trying to experiment with longer form, like fiction pieces in my musical world. I have no idea what people think of it. I think it's really cool though.
I thought it was pretty cool when it came on as the last track, and like thinking about space again, like when I was listening to it in headphones, and I know this is probably like two in the weeds, but when the seagull sound kind of happens and it's like pushed off to the left and it sounds like maybe there's like a Haas effect on it or something. Anyway, I just remember thinking like, man, that sounds so perfectly like it's over my shoulder. Like that caught my ear right away.
Some binaurality going on there.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a technique for that, or is that like a plug-in, or is it a mixing technique? Is that something you can nerd out on?
Yeah. There's Logic does have a binaural panner in it.
Okay.
But there's other third-party stuff that I've used in the past for achieving different effects like that, where, trying to get things to submerge a little or rise above the head, stereo, psychoacoustic effects and stuff like that.
Can that be overdone? Do you find that you can like rely on that effect too much in podcast or radio drama world?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the superhero stuff that people are doing like really leans into that kind of dimensional binaurality thing. And it's like, for me, like as a podcast producer, I'm always thinking about like, where are people consuming this? Like I'm here in my studio, like having a hi-fi experience, but like, are 90% of these people like listening on the train or like listening in their car with all this background noise? Probably, So I think, it's fun to go super immersive with this stuff, but I think that assumes that the listener is got high quality headphones on in a quiet space. And hell yeah. I mean, like if that's how you're listening, I would love to give you that experience. But also if you're listening like in your car, I think it's just important that you hear what the people are saying, So it's a balance. It's not quite like, it's not like film sound design where it's like, it's a captive audience. People are showing up in the theater and you could really create a world, a transportive world. I think there's a balance to be struck between that and just kind of like making it, work for people, however they might be listening. I just don't want to assume that everybody's got a perfect, quiet time to spend 5 hours listening to a fiction podcast,
Yeah, I got you. It kind of makes me think about like Dolby Atmos. I've never had the experience of sitting in like a studio equipped with like the crazy Atmos setup, but I don't know if you've ever experienced any experience with that.
I have, yeah. Sounds amazing.
It does sound amazing, yeah.
I listened to a Beck record in a studio in New York, Sea Change.
Oh, way.
For the Dolby mix. In the room where they did it, and nice. It was like, oh shit! I wish I had this in my house.
Yeah,
it sounded so good.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, that's cool. I know they try to mimic it. I think you can get some headphones and turn on an Atmos setting that's supposed to imitate it. But I imagine being in the studio where it's literally mixed must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was a lucky little thing. It was like the engineer. He was like, "Oh yeah, we did the Beck mix." I was like, "Oh Beck." Oh, only my favorite. Let's go. It was great.
That's wicked. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for satisfying some of my my nerdy engineering questions. Maybe we could talk briefly about.
You're welcome. Oh. I'm glad I could help with your engineering questions. Feel free to ask any other.
Thanks, Gemini. I appreciate that.
That really encapsulates AI in the year 2025.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Don't you have a tune about AI?
Full of itself.
What's that? So full of itself. Yeah.
So full of itself.
Yeah. Yves, I wasn't even talking to you. You have a tune about AI, don't you, on the record? Actually, isn't that?
Yeah, it's this tune building a monster. It's not exclusively about that, but there's a strong peppering in of that kind of broader concern into that song. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's exclusively about that. I kind of wrote that in the bio, but that wasn't the only thing leading me into that song.
Okay,
but but I do think of it as being a part of it for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was going to ask, I got a little distracted there. I was going to ask about Radio Down. That song Radio Down.
Yeah.
So I heard it in the context of the record. I should know this, but I don't know if you put it out as a single or not, but I heard it in the context of the record, and it just instantly like has this kind of classic tune feel. Like you just kind of like perk up when you hear it. And what's the line in it? Driving around like you think gasoline is free or something like that. It's just such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you might be able to share the origin story of that song, or just kind of if you wanted to riff on that song at all.
Yeah. Totally. So that song is a sort of my imagination of what it would be like to be with my dad in a car in an alternate world where my dad had drug and alcohol problems when I was a kid, and he died when I was young. And I see that song as a version of our reality where he got the help he needed, and I'm picking him up from rehab. And that's what that song is, or that's what inspired it. And so it's not the true story, but it's the one I wish happened. You know?
That's pretty heavy. To be honest, like it feels like a kind of a feel good song. So I didn't really expect it to have that sort of story behind it, even though, I mean, that's a feel good story, like kind of like an alternate universe. But yeah, I guess I didn't realize that. Obviously I didn't know that. So
yeah, that was a choice. That was a choice. Like I didn't want it to feel too maudlin or sort of heavy-handed. Like it's a genuine feeling, and I hope that it hits in a place for people of like hopefulness, because I really just strongly believe that addiction is a disease with some pretty cool cures. And I think hope and support are probably the two biggest cures. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what that song's about, those kind of themes. So I don't think of it as being overly dark, even though it comes from that place. I mean, my dad died 22 years ago, so it's kind of old news in a lot of ways in terms of my life. But emotionally as present as it's ever been in a lot of specific ways. I'm a parent, got an 11-year-old and a 4-year-old. It's hard not to imagine, the alternate timeline mm-hmm. where my dad does make it, and he does get to know me as an adult, and he does get to know my kids and all that stuff. My dad was a really cool guy. He was a real inspiring person to me in general. So a lot of my work throughout the years has dealt with my dad.
Okay.
So my whole first Soft Black record is, pretty much exclusively about losing him. It was only a couple of years after he died, actually, when I made that record 20 years ago. But it's a recurrent kind of theme in my music and stuff. And it's interesting to see how it's changed. Like when I was younger, I was obviously really raw about it, but also just a young person who's really raw about everything, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And dealt with it in a lot more stark and sort of intense. Like I can't even listen to that stuff. Like it's too intense for me.
Okay.
I'm not in that place anymore. And I think, what you're saying about Radio Down gives me a sense of, satisfaction that like, okay, cool. Like me telling you the story twists it, but you didn't really feel that as a painful thing. Mm-hmm. And it isn't in a lot of ways. It isn't. It's actually about hope. Yeah, hopeful. That's cool.
Hopeful is the right word. Cause like, in high school and after high school, I was that guy with a car. So I was the one with access to a car, and I was the one who had the fancy CD player. And so we would drive around all the time, me and my buddies, listening to tunes and like staying out late, and like $5 for gas, whatever we could scrounge together. So that's the feeling it gave me. It kind of threw me back into the little like carefree driving around with the windows down, just like, even though I know you're saying like turn the radio down, but anyway, like it just kind of took me back to that moment in my life. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And you know what? You want to know what the truth is that that's in there too. Like for me too. I know exactly what you're saying, and I feel that too in those lines. Like, and because I think that there's a romantic quality to being in a car, and it's just an openness, like the type of interactions you have with the people you love, like when you're driving for a while with them, So that song's about a road trip. It's about like me picking up my dad from rehab and what that might have felt like, keep driving around like gasoline is free, like we could do this all night. Like we could be here all night together. Like,
yeah.
And I think it's the exact same feeling as the one that you're talking about of like being young and like blasting records in the car with your pals. Well, we've all have that.
Yeah.
A lot of us have that, really positive memory of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'll just like, not to be old about it, but like, blasting full length records, like using the drive as a reason to show a friend a record, or like, let's listen to this new record by this band in its entirety and drive around,
I love nothing more, dude. You're my kind of people. I love that. Drive around, listen to a whole album. Yeah. That is what's up.
Yeah, that's
just is.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice way to take it in. That's cool. And I'll focus on Radio Down just a little bit more because I like the way the mix starts, where it's like it swells in a bit and like it's the space is filled out more, but then it kind of like, I think it's the second verse where it kind of gets all pulled away and it's a little drier sounding. I don't know if we're going too much into the weeds here, but I guess I don't know if you mixed the record or not. I'm assuming you mixed the record.
I mix it. Yeah. I mix the record. Yeah.
So is that, I know that's kind of like sometimes, what's the right word? Like that's an approach, where like you start off wet and then the second verse maybe gets a little drier, or like, so it feels a little more upfront. Is that happening in that tune, or do you think about that stuff much at all?
Totally. I wanted the whole intro to be like, we're kind of walking through the portal a little bit. And then I wanted it to feel really visceral, like we're really there.
Okay.
So
that kind of explains why the bass is like steady eighths or whatever, and then it starts to like add a bit of space into it. It feels like it glues together a little bit. Okay, cool.
It opens up, like it's a little bit more rhythmic and a little bit more like kind of visceral in the second part. I find when the drums are there.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I wanted to make the atmospheric part of the first part was narratively driven to me. Like I thought the story of it was kind of like, starting in the dream until the dream becomes real, that's the feeling I wanted it to be like,
Okay.
Because of the lyric, because of what it is about. Like I wanted to kind of give it that, It's interesting too, because like working with John, like I don't think we never really talked about what that song was about, but I felt like he kind of knew,
Okay.
He was just responding instinctively to like, the sound and the melodies and the sound of the words and stuff. It's just interesting to see like whatever prosody is there between like what's on the page and how we put it together. But again, I think it just speaks to John, how intuitive John is and how he's a sharp guy, Mm-hmm. So he picked up on it on the elemental level and knew what to do with his part of the puzzle,
Gotcha. That's really cool. I'm kind of playing it in my head. I can totally hear, like, and sense that kind of like vibe, like stepping out of the mist into like the way it starts into that story or situation. That's cool. Thanks for that. Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Cool. The song, maybe we could talk. Well, I wanted to ask more about the sax on Crow, but then there's also the song Alligator. There's that. I have to remind. I had it written down. I just don't have it beside me. But the line about getting close enough to the alligator that you'll get bit.
Yeah, if you try to lick an alligator, you got to be in biting range.
Yes. That's the line. That line is so interesting to me. I don't know. Again, not to get into the weeds, but just kind of how I feel today. Can you just talk about that line, or maybe what it's supposed to mean?
Well, yeah, I wrote it in 2020 when we were not sure if Donald Trump was going to become president again.
Okay.
And so the way I see that song, or what inspired that song, is I was imagining, so I have a friend actually from New Brunswick who lives down south now, and I was imagining him down south, in some McDonald's parking lot, and like this like F-150 kind of pulls in, harshly into this McDonald's parking lot, and this guy steps out, and he's got the red hat, the whole 9 yards. But then these two guys have a moment, and it's like it's not an argumentative moment, it's a little bit more of a surreal moment, and they talk to each other and they exchange their philosophy. So that song that's what that's about. Alligator's about this sort of like broader conflict in American society right now. I see the me character or whatever, my friend character, however you want to think of it. He's kind of representing the progressive side of the story, and then the other fellas is representing this sort of other worldview that's like a little bit foreign. But I think it ties into the broader, strange friends themes of these songs, these different conversations, these different scenes of people trying to find a little thread between them. But to me, it's a very abstract anti-Trump song, or at least one that's dealing with the fractures in our society in a more surreal way, and a little bit more of a symbolic way, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, having you describe some of these songs, I can see that Make Strange Friends is making a lot of sense now. Like if the songs are narrative, kind of like relationships between two people. That's a cool concept. It's kind of all coming together here.
Yeah.
And so that was intentional, or did that just sort of unfold naturally as the songs were coming out?
I was writing songs first before I had the broader. I always write records the exact same way, which is that I just write songs.
Okay.
And then when I start to notice that certain songs are talking to each other, then I start to ask myself questions about like, why are they talking to each other? Like, is it musical? Is it lyrical? When it's lyrical, now I know I'm headed towards a record, because I write lots of songs. Like, there's 9 songs on this record, but I've probably written hundreds of songs in the last couple of years. I just don't release them all or share them all. But these songs felt like they had a story to tell. And then when I locked into that, and then I began to see what the larger themes were. And then I start to ice that cake, I might have 5, 6 songs. Now I know what this record is, and I'm hunting for the last couple that will complete the thing. I don't like to like have like a 3-act structure to like my records, even though like I'm talking about some broader like kind of storytelling stuff. Like, and that, I actually do have ambitions to like write a musical or something like that, like a proper musical. But but I try to keep this stuff at least, a little bit more thematic. Like I think of it more like a collection of short stories than a book, if you see what I mean. Okay.
That's cool. Okay. That's really neat. So how do you know, because you mentioned you write, and I know a lot of people do this, they write a ton of songs, but only a few end up getting kind of like to the point of ending up on a release. Like, so when you're going through that process, how do you know when it's time to like pick a few songs to like further develop? It's just a feeling.
Oh man, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm imperfect at it, I think. I mean, I took so much time to make this record. I mean, what a joke. 5 years, I mean, I think it says everything about how neurotic I am. But very little about how the right way to do it. Because I mean, I'll tell you right now, most of the songs for this record were written between November and December of 2020. Just about all of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's when they were actually written.
Yeah.
But like, a couple weren't. Let me think here. Balloon Heaven, Inflated, and Big Bad Wolf were written maybe a year later, 2 years later. But the other songs were all written in that little window. And it just took me a long time to accept them and to accept that these were the songs. They just kept speaking to me. Okay. They kept speaking to me. And I think there's something to that too. Just like living with it, because I like to write characters a lot too, and they're not always me. So I think for me, it's like finding the truth in them is important. Finding why I should sing this is important. And then I live with them, and then and I was also just feeling, in that time I was feeling a little shy too. Like I just arrived here. I didn't have a lot of friends in the music world here yet. So I was just feeling a little bit reserved about like putting my thing out there. And it took a minute to kind of work up the confidence on that and to call it a collection or whatever. And, but John really helped with that, to be honest, because every time I brought a song over there, he said, "This song's amazing." He's always giving me these like really great reactions. Like, "Oh, he likes the song. All right, cool, man. Let's see what happens if we record it." And then we're like, a night later, it's like, "Damn, we're listening to the playback. I like this. This is really cool. Like we did this in a night, but it's really good." It really helped. It really helped to have outside collaboration with John going on, because it was two in my head, I think.
Dude, yeah, okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. You have those songs from years ago and you're picking them apart forever, it seems. But it's nice. So was John also, this kind of fascinates me too. I've asked this to a few people, but is John the kind of guy who would also be like, "No, don't do that," or like, "No, that's not working"? Or is he mostly like supportive, picking the supportive moments?
Yes, there was some no in there too. Usually when I brought him a song, I'd bring him a couple songs a night, and I just kind of feel out like, which ones is he gravitating towards, just to like kind of I wanted him to be excited about the songs that he was going to play on. So there was a bit of that, and nothing hurtful or anything like that, but definitely he was giving me real feedback along the way.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Cool. Yeah. So nothing hurtful.
And I actually. Oh no, nothing like that at all. But definitely I was looking for ones that he connected to as well. And for the most part, the ones that I thought were the ones were also the ones that he thought were the ones.
Okay.
So there was a lot of overlap. So I think it was a good collaboration in that way. Like we had similar taste, similar sensibility,
Yep.
That really worked,
Cool.
But yeah, he was thoughtful about all of it, all the parts he added, and pushing me in some cool ways of just like, okay, I know you've played this song on one tune in particular, that Rattle the Quiet tune. He was like, "I know you've played this song that way for a while. I can hear that. What if you play it a whole different way?" It's like, just play it a whole different way. Mm-hmm. Find it right now and play it that way. And what he meant by that was, I think, to play the guitar differently and just to find a different way of playing it, Okay. And I thought the first way was pretty good, So I was like, okay, but I was interested in this. I'm like, let's throw some chaos into this. Let's rattle it up. And it was really, I loved the way it came out, and it came out that way because of that note. It was like, okay, I've heard you, I know you know how to play it that way. Play it a way you don't know how to play.
Okay.
And then so I played it that way, and we built the whole rest of the arrangement around the unfamiliar.
Okay. That's cool. That's fun taking those kind of chances.
Yeah, smart creative choice on John's part that led me, and I think it speaks to the broader themes of uncertainty inside that song too. So, I think there's a lot at play there to say was a successful approach,
Uh-huh. Yeah, cool. What's your approach to sequencing an album? I always find the flow of a record, because I'm kind of like a full record guy for the most part. So sequencing is always like kind of fascinating to me. And, sometimes I like, and especially the way the first and last songs on records are always interesting too. But anyway, kind of like asking a bunch of questions at once. But do you have any philosophies when it comes to sequencing, or is it another feel it out situation?
Yeah, I think it has to go by feel. I have one character on this song that appears in 3 songs.
Okay.
And I should say one character on this album that appears in 3 songs. And I did not sequence those songs in narrative order. I took them way out of order. So to me, it was about creating a satisfying musical arc more than it was about creating a satisfying narrative arc. And I actually like that the narrative pieces of these songs flow in a disorienting way. I think it adds something to the overall, to my interpretation of it. I don't know if people experience or anyone experiences it this way except for me. I can't say, but I know that I experience it a certain way, and I hope that it informs how other people experience it too. You know?
Okay. Well, that could be kind of a neat hidden gem on the record if you were to tell everyone the narrative order for those 3 tracks.
Well, it's the songs Rattle the Quiet, Big Bad Wolf, and Crow are all deal with the same person.
Okay.
All deal with the same character, but at different stages in his life. And so, but they're not. It's not in order. So, yeah.
Okay.
I welcome any theories on what the correct order is, or any other theories. It is all open for interpretation. You know, it's not whatever I say it is not necessarily what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's cool. Man, so maybe just briefly here, I know we've been chatting for about an hour, but the saxophone on Crow, I feel like sax is kind of coming back in this weird little way. Like, I really like the artist Lights, and she does a lot of like electronic EDM, what's the right word? Like co-writes and features, you know? And I was listening to one that was like a pretty aggressive like EDM tune, and then out of nowhere in the bridge, there's just this ripping sax solo. And I was talking to Joel Miller about this too. He's a sax player from Fredericton. And
what's his name? Joel Miller, you say?
Joel Miller. Yeah.
Good to know.
He's a jazz saxophonist. Wicked, super. He did a show with Symphony MB, like jazz. Anyway, really cool guy. Yeah, I would check him out.
Cool. I love to see them do their thing over there at the Capitol and Halloween stuff they do.
Yeah.
You know, they re-soundtrack stuff.
Yeah, with the movie going, with the movie playing.
Yeah. Oh, so much fun. I love those nights.
Yeah, so cool. But yeah, check out Joel Miller's. He does trio stuff. He does, and he's got a new jazz record that just came out. I think it's called What If. Anyway, all that to say is like it feels like sax is kind of coming back in this cool way. But I guess maybe you're from a scene where sax was always part of it. That kind of like, was sax always around when you were in the Brooklyn, New York scene?
Yeah, definitely. There's always been sax players around. I gravitate to the saxophone. I really like it. I've had sax on like my last like 4 records.
Okay.
Actually, this record has the least amount of sax of any of my
really? That's
music.
Yeah, it's
just this one. But the guy Jeff Tobias is a friend of mine. Actually, we compose music together apart from Caged Animals. Right now we're actually literally in the middle of writing the soundtrack for the 2nd season of this Audible podcast called The Space Within. It's a sci-fi show which stars Jessica Chastain and Bobby Cannavale, Michael Shannon, and actually my daughter Alaska is the going to be in it.
No way.
This season.
Michael Shannon's incredible. The actor, Michael Shannon?
Yeah, he's an amazing. Yeah, the actor Michael Shannon, yeah.
Wow.
So Jeff and I write music for that together, and he's a horn player, and I'm more like voice, guitar, synthesizers, and we're kind of composing music together that goes with the story.
Okay.
So we have a long history of working together. He's played on the last couple Caged Animals records, and I recorded that song with John Crow, and I knew I wanted Jeff to play something at the end during the last section of the song, and so I gave him the note, like, I want to see the crow. Like, can you make him fly? I want to see the blue sky, and I want to see the crow. I want to see the wings. I want it all in the sax solo. And like I went on for a little bit longer than that, and I really gave him a lot of detail about the feeling I wanted.
Yeah,
that we were going to be on the earth and we're going to be looking at him. And he first take was just like right away. He sent it back to me. I'm like, that's it. We're good. You're good. You're dismissed.
Dismissed. Yeah. Job complete.
Send me the wave.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool. He really made it so evocative and, emotional.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. It does have a different vibe to it. Like the way it comes in and the note choices, it does have like it has its own feel for sure.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. He plays in a lot of stuff. He's in a band called Modern Nature now. Okay. They do a lot of stuff. They're actually British, those guys, but he's in that group. Okay. His own solo stuff is amazing, by the way. Jeff Tobias, he's got 2 albums out. They're both great. Yeah, so really cool to have him on the record again.
That's very cool. Awesome. Well, maybe we can finish the chat just kind of shouting out the artwork, because that's another piece of the puzzle of this release that's kind of like captivating. You like look at the artwork and you're like, huh, like it's like a storybook vibe. Is it like a weird painting? It's like, I don't know. It just kind of sits in this strange space in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, thanks. So it's a photo that Magali took of our car with the rear lights on, illuminating John's driveway out in Bay Vert.
Okay.
And so I feel I always feel my songs in a very color kind of specific way. And these were red songs to me. So I gave her the assignment of like, I just need a photo with like red, really prominent red. And so she went through her she's a photographer, Magali. So she went through her archives and she sent me a couple things and I saw that one and I was like, oh, that's it. Send me that photo. And so she sent that to me. And then I actually found those two characters, collaged them in. And so the way I see it is that like the light is kind of showing us what you couldn't see a different way.
Okay.
And these two figures are sort of just reacting to one another. They're one is trying to terrify the other. The other one is just so scared. And but they're our little strange friends. You know.
Okay. That's cool. Okay, that's cool. I like that. That's a nice story to the artwork. And yeah, I'd love to see it on vinyl. Like I'd love to be holding it with the full size picture of my face, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, we just got them, you know. Hang on.
No way.
Yeah, they just came in. You've changed records.
I got a buddy who's a big fan of You Changed Records. Oh yeah, look at that. That's cool.
Best label in the land. You've changed records.
That's wicked.
And that
looks real nice.
Thank you to Steve and You've Changed for releasing this record. What a privilege to be a part of that history, you know?
Yeah, I told my buddy about, like, I was like, hey, check out this Bandcamp. He's like, they got a record coming out on You Changed Records. He was pretty stoked. So to find out that the Saxophone project. Anyway, so sorry, I have to ask now that you mentioned color. Does that mean do you have synesthesia? Like, do you see colors when you're playing music?
Sometimes it feels connected to the emotions of it to me.
Okay.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah. I think of it that way for sure.
Cool.
It's visual.
It's
a little bit visual.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just asked, I've heard one other person's mentioned that, and I lived with a buddy he was a drummer, but he would write songs as well. And I found like the way he structured songs just felt weird, the way his chord changes were. And he told me he would like map the songs, the chord changes based on like how the colors would change, like the hues would change as he's working on things. So since then I've been kind of fascinated by when someone mentions colors attached to music.
Yeah. To me, it swims in the same emotional space of like, but I think that for me, like I need it to be that way. Like if it's not that way, it's not anything to me. Okay. You know, like I don't care. Like unless it makes me feel something, like, unless I'm feeling it deeply, and I'm not even talking about the lyrics. Like forget the lyrics, just the music. Mm-hmm. Like just the music, and it has to make me feel something. It has to make me feel a certain way. And it needs to bring some images to mind, needs to bring some visuals to mind. And to me, like they're very often strongly attached to specific, you know, color palettes too. Like not necessarily like one color, but like it's, you know. So for me, like when Almar is always just trying to find the thing that looks like how it sounds.
Okay.
Like, and color is more important than imagery in a lot of ways to me. Like, it's just like the overall feeling that this produced to me.
Yeah.
I swear to you, that's exactly the way the songs feel to me.
Okay.
So cool. That's, you know, so then it was just about adding some poetry to it, or adding some like, you know, symbolism to it that like could swim with the lyrical side of it, you know?
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I agree. I love when something just feels, it's like when it's even hard to describe, it just feels, and you just have to be like, okay, this just feels good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's really important. And music is so, it's in the air, you know?
Yeah.
It's mysterious.
Yeah, it's just floating around. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wicked. Well, where's the best place, Vincent, for people to reach out or get in touch or grab the tunes?
So we're selling this record, on our Bandcamp, cagedanimals.bandcamp.com. It's also on You've Changed Records, bandcamp.com. Either way, it's the same situation to get the record. We're going to play a bunch of shows coming up. We're going to play a show in Sackville on the 21st at 25 Lorne with Julie Dwan and Stephen Lamke. We're going to play at Dartmouth at the Sanctuary Arts Center on the 19th of December with Julie Dwan and Stephen Lamke. We're going to play at Shivering Songs in Fredericton.
Cool.
On the 24th of January. So we got some maritime stuff coming around. When I'm home for Christmas time in New York City, I'm going to be playing at Trans Pecos, which is at Ridgewood, Queens on the 28th of December with Toby Goodshank and an artist named Pinky. So yeah, we're playing a bit around. I'm hoping to play a lot more shows in Canada this year. Like that to me, or this coming year, I want to, I live here and I want to be a little bit more present in, playing shows around that aren't just in the Maritimes, so I'm hoping to get out to Quebec and Ontario in the coming year and introduce my music to people and introduce myself to people.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, I feel like the music would be well received somewhere like Montreal. Quebec has such an interesting music scene too, like just the way the Francophone the music happens there too. Like Quebec kind of has its own vibe, and I feel like your music would fit in well in that world.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's a whole other situation, and I had no clue if it would resonate or what, but I would really like to try and go play and see if there's any love there. It's interesting. Like it's sometimes surprising where the love is at. You don't know.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hidden love, yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, have you ever come across the St. John? We're only Sackville, a couple hours away, so that'd be cool.
We should. Where should we play? I want to. Where should we play? What's like the cool all ages or
the punk rock
not just a bar.
Punk rock all ages venue is Haven Music Hall. It's a bar, but it's also they do wet dry shows. Okay. It's like a smaller punk rock venue, like just what you're probably imagining, but it's meant for music. They sell coffee and liquor and stuff, but it's a music hall, so it's meant for that. There's a bar called Wasted Day if you wanted to play like the kind of a typical 19 plus bar show. There's a BMO Theater, which is kind of like a smaller soft seater. There's not too many seats there. Like it's not like a big, I don't know how many there are exactly, but that's where someone like Kylie Fox would be playing there. Sean McCann from Great Big Sea just played there. Pixel Wave, if you know them, they do that like video game symphony music. They would play there. And then the next step up would be like the Imperial Theater, which is, I saw Tom Morello there last night actually. So that would be like similar to the Capitol in Moncton.
Ooh, wow. Well, I'm guessing we're not the theater. We've never played St. John. So, but yeah, maybe we'll check out that Haven Music Hall. It'd be great to come play for people and,
I feel like maybe Julie Dewalrance played there. Maybe I'm mistaken, but that would be wicked to bring her with you. That would be cool because that would fit right into that venue for sure.
Ooh, I'll find out if she'd like to. I know she's going back to California to play some shows in a couple days, and then she's going to do these 2 maritime shows with us, which I'm pumped about. We went on tour with her in the U.S. in June and July, and then we instantly got like a bunch of like feedback on like Instagram. We're like, what? No Canada shows, no maritime shows? And I was like, we should totally do that. We should we should play some shows here too. And so it took a minute to line it up. I'm glad that it's lining up with at least our album being out, because for me, it was kind of like we were on tour before the record was out, and I was like, oh man, it's like not lining up perfectly with, I want to share these songs with people.
Yeah.
But so I think the Maritimes is getting the long end of the stick here, and they're going to get the Cage Animals that have a new record.
Well polished in the pocket, and Julie's one of those artists around here. The same with like Rick and Eric's Trip and stuff. Like people just kind of like forget they're from around here, so like you just. Anyway, that's probably a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I really appreciate you giving me some of your time, quite a bit of your time actually. It was a really great chat, and you let me kind of like get into the weeds there and ask some nerdy questions. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for spending time with my record and having such a thoughtful response to it. I appreciate you diving in there and also spending time talking to me. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a great record. I recommend everyone check out Make Strange Friends any way you can, and I'll be spinning a couple tracks on my radio show, of course. And yeah, hopefully we can touch base if you're in St. John, or next year at Music MB. Maybe we'll cross paths too. Music MB week.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll shoot you an email if we come down. But no, I'm serious with that. I'd like to come down there and play. So it seems like it might be more of a New Year endeavor at this point. But yeah, that would be great.
For sure. Cool. Awesome. Thanks a lot, Vincent. I appreciate it.